Thank you very much. It is a real pleasure to be here. Thank you for that lovely introduction. My name is Daniel Rowe. That much is true. I think it would be good if we could have something on the screen. But yes, I'm here to talk today about Beyond the Framework, building for the next decade of the web. And I apologize for that, and I thank you for being here nevertheless. Because I was reading back through my talk description as I was preparing the talk, and I thought, I have no idea what this means. Do any of you have any idea what it means? Or you're just here because, it's a nice stage and so on. Well, thank you for coming anyway. And I promise I'm going to try and think of something to tell you that I think will be relevant. My name is Daniel Rowe. I'm a full-time open source maintainer, which I've got to say is the best job in the world. I absolutely love it. I lead the core team building Nuxt, which is a full-stack framework for building web apps. But I also am involved in other projects like Nitro, which is a framework for building servers. I've built a few websites like PageSpeed, which I was told by someone at Google is the fastest client for Google Lighthouse and Crux Web Vitals scores. First Commit, where you can find your first commit on GitHub and some others. If you go to my website, row.dev, unfortunately, it doesn't give you all of these links, but it does give you a way to contact me if you want to message me with a question or if there's some way I can help. I would love to do that. If we don't have time to have questions after this talk, please grab me over today or drop me a line online. I really enjoy it. One of the things I love most about coming to conferences like this one is the chance to meet and talk to people. Maybe that I've been collaborating with online, the joy of open source, right? And also people I don't know and haven't met before. And I recently started as a software engineer at Vercel, who are employing me to work full-time on Nuxt, which is great, a huge privilege. I live in Edinburgh. Edinburgh is the Athens of the North, apparently, according to a poster at Edinburgh Airport that I saw while getting on the plane to come here. It's a lovely place in the UK, in Scotland, and I moved there about 2 years ago and still loving it. So Nuxt, I should say, just to get out of the way, because you'll probably be thinking, what is Nuxt? Or maybe you're thinking, Nuxt is amazing, we love it. But Nuxt is a progressive framework, with the idea being that it should make it really easy to start, and it should then be able to grow with you as your needs increase. So it should be fully customizable, but it should have a very gentle learning curve from the beginning. It's a philosophy that I think a lot of frameworks either have adopted or should adopt. It's not unique to Nuxt, but it is something that we really believe in. It has some stars and some downloads. The big dip was a glitch in NPM, by the way, not the fact that everyone stopped using it. And I want to very quickly move beyond that so I can talk about what I've promised to talk about today, which is how to build beyond the frameworks for the next decade of the web. I'm so sorry about that talk. Every time I say it, it sounds worse. It's bad, isn't it? It's really generic. And it overpromises. But anyway, how can you build for the next decade of the web? And so I have a few ideas. Sorry, no, not actually that. That was a joke, by the way. I consider myself, to myself, funny. But at the same time, I also realize the truth. So it's fine. And this is the first thing that I think that it's important to say. That was also a joke, by the way. I've just said 2 jokes in a row. I'll say more. And it's fine. You don't have to laugh. I will just quietly cry inside. So my first point, that was also a joke. Goodness me. Or maybe I'm confused with what joke means. At last. Okay, and the first thing, which is actually something I'm saying because I think this is probably the most important thing to say in the present moment, looking forward to web development in the next decade. And that is that you are irreplaceable. Unreplaceable. Irreplaceable. I think it's irreplaceable. I don't know what the past Daniel was doing when he wrote that slide. You're irreplaceable. You can't be replaced. Because the thing that each of us individually brings to web development is the most important thing in web development. The technology and the framework is actually the least important piece of building for the web. Technologies come and go. I'm going to talk about what makes them good or what makes them bad. I hope I'll get a chance to do that if I don't waste my time trying to make jokes. But the thing that is constant is the people who are operating the technologies and the tools. Because, and I think this is a truth, we are artisans of the web. We are modern day, well, we are craftspeople. We wield hammers and nails and screwdrivers and saws and stuff, but digitally, and we make things. But instead of tables and chairs and houses and whatever, we make websites and back-end systems, and that we build stuff. And the thing about that is that we have tools, but it's never the tool. It's always the design and the vision and the craftspersonship that goes into that, right? That is the most important thing. People often ask me, how LLMs, how AI, it's never LLMs, people always say AI when they mean LLMs, but people say, how will AI replace me? It's a worry that is put into our minds by the constant stream of online stuff. And on that note, I'm just going to say, please, no FOMO. But the answer is no, absolutely not. I don't know exactly what's going to happen with LLMs, and probably code gen is going to change our jobs, and it's going to change a lot about them, maybe going to change our job titles, but it's never going to change the thing that is most important that we bring, which is a sense of being artisans of the web, the people who use the tool. The tools change all the time. That's in the nature of tools. That's in the nature of technology. The job description of you and me is tool operator and tool learner. We are people who pick up, train ourselves, become deeply rooted in a particular set of technologies, gain skills and expertise, and above all, retain the ability to learn and adapt and direct. So if you have ever seen, who here has ever seen AI slop? Do you know what I mean by AI slop? It's something that is that's really rubbish. Initially, it looks like it might be workable or might be good, and then the more you explore it, you think, this is just awful. And typically, the problem here is not that an LLM was involved in generating it, by the way. I hope that's not controversial. The problem is that the human involved was not taking their role seriously as an artisan or someone who directs. They became a passenger, not a driver. So with any tool, you want to be the one deciding where it goes. You want to be the one directing it. And I think that's really an essential part of how we build in the future. I would also say that this means that this whole FOMO concept, I again want to take a moment to talk about this, because I think frameworks and libraries are among the worst offenders when it comes to creating this fear of missing out. Would anyone here say you've experienced imposter syndrome? I'm serious, I experience that all the time. I think one of the reasons that we do is that we are fed a constant stream of, look how cool this new thing is. This is going to revolutionize the web. This is actually going to revolutionize the web. That thing that you started learning yesterday that came out the day before is actually way outdated, and you should use this now. That kind of stream only goes to make us feel out of touch, desperately losing relevance in a world which is constantly changing around us. That feeds into the sense of imposter syndrome and makes us feel like we are losing our grip on expertise. To which I think we have to say, I would, by the way, say, if you do listen to every new technology and try it out and adopt it, what you will end up being is a very, very shallow artisan with a wide range of experience, but very little actual expertise. And it is far better, most people would say, that it's far better to be a T-shaped person with a depth of experience in at least one area. And yes, breadth of experience, because curiosity is a good thing. But don't let FOMO rule. Don't adopt everything, and don't feel like you're getting left behind, because actually, you are what is irreplaceable, not the tool and not the technology. So, I've got a question for you. Oh, by the way, I had a QR code up earlier on. There was a picture, you might have scanned it or not. I had a QR code up earlier on, and now I'm telling you about 2 QR codes. I'm sorry, that's 2. Who let this person on stage? I'd like to know what frustrates you about web development. And hopefully you'll be able to access my website and answer that question. One person has managed to answer the question, so that the internet is working. That is good to know. I should also say, this is the other QR code. If you go to my website, ro.dev/live, you will be able to send live emojis on the screen. Okay, some people are doing it. Excellent, the internet is working. I should have told you about that. You can invent your own emojis, you can just put them in. When I was developing this, actually, I was rickrolled because I made the mistake of posting on Blue Sky about it. I'm on all social networks, by the way, except Twitter. And I was posting on Blue Sky about it, and someone figured out somehow my endpoint and started, I didn't have any validation apart from the fact that it should be an emoji plus. So they sent me like 20 emojis in a row, and that was coming up on the screen, like whole lines of never going to give you up, never going to let you down. It was very distracting. So what frustrates you about web development? Constant, new, fast, NPM, people. Okay. Yes, all of these things, right? Yeah. I love it. Well, here's the second key thing, I think, about building for the web in the next decade. And I hope it's not going to come as a surprise. I think you should embrace a framework. Or frameworks. This is a trend. So the React docs say you should use React as part of a framework. The React Native docs say you should use React Native as part of a framework. And that will probably be true with a lot of other documents as well. And I think you should. And here are some reasons why. The first is, I think a framework is inevitable, bearing in mind what a framework is. So what do I mean by a framework? I mean a tool like Nuxt or Next or something like that, or Solid Start, for example, which wraps the tools that you're using, wraps the configuration of those tools, and implements a lot of patterns that you probably want to implement yourself. It may be customizable, or it may be very opinionated. Whatever it is, it's a framework. And I think it is inevitable. So tools originally like Next.js, Nuxt, Angular, Meteor, Ember, back in the day, were created, the purpose was, actually in many cases, the purpose was to configure Webpack. I don't know if anyone here ever configured Webpack manually. Yes, the people who are raising their hands have lines engraved in their face from the pain of doing this. And so frameworks were created to take this common task and make it straightforward for people. But if people didn't adopt it, they still had a framework, but their framework was copy and pasting the same Webpack config from project to project. That was their framework. That's what I mean by a framework is inevitable. The moment you start saying something is a best practice and you start replicating it over and over and over again, congrats. You've built your own framework. The thing is, though, it's your own framework. It's not shared, developed with others, and improved by others. And second, I think actually a framework is desirable, whatever it is. Oh, yes. Would anyone like to come on stage for a challenge? I see a first hand over there. So, yes, come on up. And yes, applause. So let's do a typing challenge, if you don't mind. I'm going to get smoked. Okay. Whenever you're ready, if you just start typing quickly. Whoa. Amazing. That is phenomenal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Feel free to take a seat. I'm going to give that a try. No pressure. Well, yeah, let's talk about pressure. Okay, that was 113, right? That's what I've got to beat, 113? Oh, this is so bad. Okay. I shouldn't have had so much coffee beforehand. Ah! Oh. I was robbed. Congrats, by the way. No, the thing I want to say is that typing is actually not that important. Actually, what I was going to say might have changed. No, it didn't. I think typing is a good example of a skill where speed doesn't matter. It's not that the faster you get at typing, the better you get as a coder. But it is an example of a skill where if you can type very slowly, or you can't type without looking at the keyboard, you'll find there's a friction in your coding experience that holds you back. Now, I don't know if anyone would experience that, but I will say for sure, I will never have cause to type that quickly when I'm coding. Because the thing that's generally speaking holding me back is my thought process, figuring out what I want to type. I'm generally probably typing quite slowly. But typing becomes very important when it becomes something that holds me back. Because I think the most important thing that we can have in our tooling as developers is a sense of effortlessness. I should be able to go, because just as the most important thing in web development is not the tool, but the person who directs it, the most important thing for the tool is to get out of the way of the person who's building. So I should be able to take an idea in my head and go into implementation with this little pain in between, a little friction as I can get away with. So the aim of something like a framework is to get rid of that in between and take you from concept to output as well and as quickly as possible. So let me give you an example of Nuxt fonts. This is a font module which I wrote last year. And it aimed to address a number of problems with using custom web fonts. So the configuration is complex. It's easy to be out of sync. There are performance pitfalls that people might not know about and have to be educated over. And you can have stuff like this kind of layout shift. And so we built a tool that this is a view component, that takes a sort of normal view component, identifies the font family, automatically downloads that from Google Fonts, Bunny, FontShare, FontSource, Adobe Fonts, or even looks for it in your public directory in your project, and injects that into your CSS, and even downloads it and puts it into your build output. So you actually don't have any third-party requests at all. It then looks at the font, identifies font metrics, and adds some special CSS that will mean that before that font is downloaded, the fallback font in your browser actually approximates it as closely as possible. So it ends up looking something like this. Not nearly as much a layout shift as it would without that extra CSS. And yes, I did choose a font that makes it particularly obvious. Now that, for my mind, is what frameworks should be doing. Taking something that adds this little bit of extra friction, people can do it absolutely by hand, and taking bits of best practice and making it so users do not have to think about it. I have a question. Who here is using Nuxt? And I just want to observe how very clever I am. Because I've given you two choices, and they are yes and not yet. See, it's that constant subliminal messaging that really That was a joke also. Okay. So, amazing. The 8 people who use Nuxt, thank you for being here. The 46 future users of Nuxt, it's also really nice to meet you. That was a joke. One of the things I hope you take away from this talk is that actually using Nuxt is really not the main thing, or using any particular framework. In general, framework wars are bad. Not only do they promote a feeling of missing out, they also distract you from the main purpose, which is shipping cool things. And they make you think that what really matters is the tool rather than the tool user. So I am totally joking when I say things like this. And in fact, the reason I ask is that we wrapped up everything that Nuxt Fonts does, almost everything that we could wrap up, and released it as something called Fontless. It has 0 runtime overhead. It was a collaboration with a Quick team. And it offers the metric-based fallbacks, the multiple providers, and it's totally framework agnostic. So it works in Vue, React, Solid Start will be totally fine. I haven't tested in Solid Start, but I know it works in Solid, Svelte, Quick, and so on. Anything that uses Vite. So, and we have three libraries that are part of that: Fontaine, Fontless, and Unifont. And all of that has been extracted from Nuxt so that hopefully any framework can use it. Oh. But it still is true, I think, that a framework is a desirable thing for wrapping that up and making it available to you. Third, a framework is the right tool. Or I should say, in many cases, a framework is the right tool. So sometimes, I don't know if you ever go into your perfectionist phase like me, where you think, I am going to craft this website perfectly, so it never needs to be touched for the next 10 years. Do you ever feel like that? This website it's sprung fully formed out of the head of Zeus. You know, it is as it should be. And if you've ever fallen into that trap as well, I actually do have a website still running Nuxt 2, which is way end of life. It outputs purely static HTML with no JavaScript, and it's been running untouched, last deployment years ago. Sometimes that is the answer. But most often, I think we miss the point of what we're building as web developers. So often, we're not building a table. We're building a house. It's a project that never ends. It always needs to be developed, because if you stop developing it, it starts falling apart. And that is that's not a failing of our tools, and that's not a failing of what we're building. That's the nature of what we're building. If you said, I expect a house to last forever, people would say, well, that's no house I've ever encountered before. They always need ongoing work. It's not a defect of the house. It's the nature of the beast. You can't deploy a website with a back-end integration and with running servers and expect never to touch it from that point onward. So what you need from the framework is the tool that will enable you to make those updates and keep maintaining it for the future. So some of the things I expect we're going to see in this space in the next decade, we're going to see much more in the nature of unlocking features and capabilities that can be done only at the framework level. So stuff like, these are some of the things on our roadmap at Nuxt, but I could pick others. I think we're also going to see much more leaning into bundlers. So we have a whole new generation of Rust-based build tools. Coming to the Vite ecosystem is the integration with Rolldown, but you also have things like RSPack, even Farm, or TurboPack in the Next.js land, aiming to speed up bundlers so that they can do more. And there'll be a lot more interesting things that are maybe not things we're expecting to do by default. So here are a few of the things that we're working on at Nuxt. Streaming, we're a bit late to the party with regard to that. But we have a lot more interesting things with regard to caching, caching pre-rendered data, and optimizing what we deliver to the user. I'm going to speed through this because it's very exciting to me, but I have learned about myself that I maybe sometimes get excited about things that other people don't always get as excited about. So we're doing things like smushing, rebundling, JavaScript into like a single file, but using import maps in order to allow that to continue to work seamlessly across the rest of your website. Extracting asynchronous functions automatically at build time into separate chunks so that JavaScript actually required to render your site is decreased. We tried this on Nuxt.com and decreased JavaScript by 39% and unused JavaScript by 66%. This feature is slated for the next minor release of Nuxt. And I think we'll see more and more tight vertical integrations on the part of hosting platforms. So Cloudflare, Vercel, Netlify, all of them are starting to, or already do, offer exactly this kind of thing. When I'm saying vertical integration, I mean they have a KV store, they have like a function code running thing. They're thinking of cron jobs, there's queuing, there's persistent connections like WebSockets. The whole stack is available there for you in one deployment provider. And there are different approaches frameworks can take to that. So a platform-centric or a framework-centric approach. I think Next.js is a very good example of a platform-centric approach, which deeply integrates with, say, Vercel, and offers a lot of things for Vercel that work extremely well and have a great user experience. Nuxt.js is an example of the other approach, of going for something which is framework-centric, not platform-centric. So here are a few of the providers that we have for the different things that you can use. We offer zero config deploy to lots of providers. We have different testing frameworks supported, different KV and cache, different databases, different image providers, different font providers, all of which is costly in terms of maintenance because it requires people to use all of these things and actively contribute to Nuxt or to the underlying utilities that we've built, most of which are not just for Nuxt, but shared with other providers like Handstack Start or Solid Start or Analog.js. But it's a different approach. We think it's a better one to bet on because if you build your app for this, you can migrate it from provider to provider and you don't need to worry about that. If that's part of your ongoing maintenance of your house, then that's something that the framework will cope with. You're not locked into any one particular pattern. And that provider pattern is something that we have adopted in Nitro, which is our underlying server framework, but which is also adopted in other frameworks like SvelteKit or Astro, which have exactly the same kind of adapter. So you build something for SvelteKit, and you should be able to deploy it to any of the providers that they have adapters for, and so on. So that's a very quick overview of where I think stuff is going in the framework world. But my third point about building for the next decade of the web, and I think this is probably obvious. You probably are already totally there. But don't do it alone. Build with others. I think one of the most important things is community when it comes to building something that's actually going to last. So I don't know who it was who said it, and I should have checked this out, but there's a quote which goes along the lines of, if you want to build fast, build it alone. Actually, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I think that is absolutely the case, because it is so tempting as a developer to fall into the perfectionist trap. I want this to be just the way I want it. Because when I look out there and I see the things that other people have built, they all have problems. Like look at, React Form or Redux Form or whatever, and it's just, it's filled with bugs. I wouldn't do it that way. Or look at how Solid Start have done it. They constantly have different patterns from the ones I would pick. That is a total trap. It's far better to collaborate and build things together, because when you have more people looking at it, they'll spot your blind spots, and you'll spot theirs, and you'll be able to make something that actually lasts. So build with others. Some visions, some values I think it might be useful to adopt are the principle of friendly collaboration, even with people who are at the framework level. This is something we adopt. There's no value in framework wars, even at the framework maintainer level. I'd also say we've adopted this principle, so be center-bounded. I've heard, I don't know how true it is, but I've heard that in Australia, ranchers often do not have fences. And yet, they don't have problems with the cattle wandering off, because they feed them. They give them water. And so, their cattle or horses or whatever come back every day to the place where they find those things. And it's so tempting to draw lines around communities and fence them off from other communities, but it's far better to build in a way which sets out a North Star or a vision and says, whoever you are welcome. If this is something that you believe in, want to be part of, want to engage with, want to contribute to, we would welcome you and we would love to have you there. This, I showed you our graph, the Nuxt graph, which is steadily going up, which is nice. But this is actually a metric I care about much more. So we have over 950 contributors who make Nuxt. So it's not something that's driven by just, me and a few others. It is something that's built by a whole community. I wouldn't trade that for twice as many stars, 10 times as many downloads. The fact that we're built by a community is, I think, something that will mean we will go further in the long term. And I would say any open source project, any building for the next decade of the web should be resting on the shoulders of its contributors. We also have a sort of modules thing, which similar, has lots of things. And really, we're trying to do this at Nuxt. I'm saying this, by the way, not to say that you should use Nuxt, but to say that this is something I believe, and I think it's something we would all do well to adopt. So we've invested in doing things like building a website that lets you have a score and get a badge on Discord. And I should say, it's not really about one particular framework. If I mentioned earlier, feel free to DM me about anything, but I should also say, feel free to chat with me at any time. I have an open calendar on my website where you can book a 10-minute chat if you want to. If you want to get involved in open source, whether that's one of my projects or not, I would be really happy to talk, particularly if you feel like you're not sure you'd fit in, or you don't feel like your background is exactly the same as the people in the project. I'd happily help or give advice or whatever I can do. That's it for my talk. I hope I something answered my own ridiculous title of a talk about building for the next decade of the web. But if I haven't, feel free to take me outside and lightly beat me over the head. If you're interested, feel free to check out the Nuxt docs as well. And that QR code will take you to Blue Sky if you want to follow a whole bunch of the Nuxt contributors who are there. I think we probably have time for 30 seconds worth of questions, which is not a tremendous amount of time, but it has been a real pleasure and a delight to speak. Thank you so much for having me.